what was I going? Where's I going with that? Oh, a great article in the Washington Examiner today about Antifa. I really would like you to read it if you get the chance up on Gino.com. Of course, if you subscribe to my email list, I'll send you these articles. But please, we should stop calling these people Antifa. We should just start calling them what they are, which are hate groups.
There you go.
Thugs, criminals, savages. Basically what I did on the Laura Ingraham show last night. These are not anti-fascist. That's what Antifa is supposed to stand for. Now, if you read the piece, the author brilliantly goes into how this is 1930s Stalinist propaganda. How this is what the original Marxists, communists, in their effort to combat people, remember, they in their effort to, in their war against freedom, I guess is what I'm getting at, they've used these semantics, this rhetorical war, to get people to, they do what's called framing and gaslighting. They frame an argument in their terms, and then they gaslight you to believe that this stuff is true. Framing themselves, these violent, brutal thugs, these speech suppression, civil liberties threatening advocates, right? These animals who go and, spit in the face of police officers, attack people brutally. In an effort to get you to frame them as something different, what do they call themselves? They call themselves anti-fascists. And the author goes into, in the article, the history of the term anti-fascism and how it is used by actual fascists and communists to get you to believe that they're on the side of liberty and freedom when they're not.
Oh, yeah.
These Antifa thugs are animals. This is a propaganda ploy, anti-fascism. And he talks about, in the piece, he talks about in the piece how anti-fascism has been used for a label to cover for violence and aggression and political suppression and anti-civil civil liberties advocacy for eons. So I don't have a lot to add on that. I just want to strongly encourage you to read the piece, because last night I was doing Laura Ingram's show, and I lost my marbles last night on the show. I mean, I just did. I mean in a good way. I don't mean like in a psychosis way, but it was late, and I'm in a particularly salty mood yesterday because I'm tired. I'm exhausted physically and mentally, having to deal with the media buffoonery around this topic. 20 people show up in Washington, D.C., hysterically, Joe, and unite the right. These people have nothing to do with the right at all.
Right.
I don't know these people. I want nothing to do with these people. 20 people. 20 people. I could get more people to show up at a book signing in Siberia than these people got to show up in Washington, D.C. The media spends the entire week in hysterics. White supremacist rally. Ah! 20 people show up. Mm-hmm. The media the entire week in absolute hysterics, and they completely avoid the story that the Antifa, anti-First Amendment, anti-civil liberties, violence, hate group thugs show up and start basically attacking people again. Attacking reporters, spitting in the face of cops. The story's completely ignored to focus on 20 people who show up in Washington, D.C. And hysterically, the media labels Antifa an anti-hate group. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the media is a propaganda outfit. This is what... Listen, I again, because I have to always caveat this, and I mean it. I am an absolute believer in the free press. Unfortunately, the free press has the ability to be stupid, which they always take us up on that offer.
Yep.
This is not anti-hate, okay? Antifa is a hate group. They embody hate. They worship hate. They love hate, violence, anger, aggression, greed. This is what they are. Don't buy into the media hype. And please do not fall into this trap by the media where they're trying to get you to apologize for some racial identity politics group. Bill, how do you feel about the white supremacists? The same way I feel about anybody who engages in racist type behavior. Why are you associating them with that? They have nothing to do with us at all. What are you talking about? I don't even answer those questions.
Well, dude, when you see people with their faces covered up, that's a bad sign in the very beginning.
Right, why are you covering your face up, right? I mean, there's a reason you're doing that. Because you're going to be engaged in criminal thuggery, and you don't want to be exposed and become a YouTube celebrity.
Bingo.
Or infamy, I should say. Hey, there's another angle. Let me just cover stroke quickly, because I got a couple other things I want to get to which are really interesting, including an angle on the... How do I say this without sounding like a pretentious jerk? And I'm really not trying to do that. It's not my goal, ever. So, Joe, people in the media are starting to finally catch on to our theory here that I think we have a lot of good backing for. You know, it's in my book, about this entire operation on Trump being a setup.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah.
I think even some in the liberal media are now starting to come around to the idea that, yes, there may have been something shady that went on in the Trump operation, but they're still holding out there was actual collusion. So just to be clear on this, my operating theory on this entire Trump Spygate debacle and why I think it's such a big deal is because I'm sure, based on our research now, that this was a setup. As I keep saying to you, it's not that they tried to pull information out of the Trump team about Russian collusion. It's that they pushed the information in. The media is still operating on the theory that government entities that may have been weaponized in this case and may have engaged in some form of malfeasance or misfeasance show, they're still engaged in the theory, though, that they did it because Trump was colluding with the Russians. They were trying to pull the information out. So do you see the difference?
Yeah.
This is a critical distinction.
Yeah.
I want to be crystal clear on this. Because what I'm going to tell you next is some pretty surprising stuff, and I'm very proud of the fact that me and Joe have been at least 3 to 4 months ahead of the news cycle, and this is going to be the next big story. So get ready. But you won't understand the next big story if you don't understand the A-B comparison here. Me, I think, I don't want to speak for other people in the media, but I know other folks out there who are working on this. Lee Smith, primarily, who's done a great job, Real Clear Investigations and Tablet Mag, are operating on the theory that Trump-Russian collusion does not exist. Okay, folks, please understand, it's a myth. That the effort to pull and spy on the Trump team and pull the collusion information out had to be a setup. Why, Joe? Because there was nothing to pull out.
Right.
It's like me investigating Joe for a bank robbery he didn't commit. And I know he didn't commit it, but I'm constantly trying to get Joe to admit to the bank robbery. So the A side, the A-B comparison here, A is us, the conservatives, B is the liberal media. The A side says there was no Russian collusion. The real scandal is they were trying to pull the information out that they pushed in. That they sent contacts into the Trump team to go, hey, what do you think about the Russians? What do you think about the Russians? We've got information on the Russians. Now, I'm going to give you a quote later from the Miami Herald in a piece that was sent to me, great job, that I haven't touched on this topic in a while, that shows you how the media is in on this scam. That the whole scam was to go up to Trump team members and say, hey, the Russians may have information on Hillary, and to report back on if they bid or not. That's the scam. The media now and the libs are still holding out on the B side. The media and the libs are still, they're not, I think they've given up, Joe, on the fact that the investigation was above board.
Yeah.
They may not say that publicly, but I think even the kooks at CNN and MSNBC understand that there were a lot of nasty things that went on. I'm serious. I'm not giving them credit. I'm just telling you that these people are devious. A lot of them are really shady characters, but they're not stupid. They have to be reading this going, okay, this doesn't look that good. But they justify it by assuming that there was an actual bank robbery. And that although the FBI investigation of the bank robbery didn't go particularly well, these were noble characters because they were trying to solve a bank robbery. They still believe that there was Russian collusion. There wasn't. Understanding that, you'll see why the media is blind to what's finally starting to come out, at least on the fair media, the Fox and stuff, and in the conservative media. Lee Smith was on Tucker yesterday in his piece in Real Clear Investigations, which is in yesterday's show notes, about the Trump Tower meeting. And listen, I've spoken to Lee. We're not like close friends, but I know Lee. I've had him on my NRA TV show. He's a great guy. He's a terrific reporter. Lee, I, and others, Joe, have been on this for months. It's not a pat on the back. I just, again, don't want you to think you're wasting your time here. The Trump Tower meeting article he did, it went nuclear yesterday. That the Trump Tower meeting between Don Jr. and the Russian lawyer may have in fact been a setup. This is old news to Lee and to me. It's only just now starting to filter out. Now, get what I'm saying here. I'm talking about now the A side, that all of these contacts with the Trump team were not in fact efforts to collude with the Russians. They were in fact pushed contacts by the government trying to set up the Trump team for collusion with the Russians.
Right.
The Trump Tower meeting where the Russian lawyer who shows up is working with a company hired by Hillary. The former Russian intelligence officer that shows up is very close to the Clinton sphere. His lawyer is very close to the Clinton orbit. The translator that shows up has done work with the State Department. The connections are endless to the Clinton team. Everybody who contacts the Trump orbit has some connection to either the FBI or the Clinton team, and almost no contact with actual Russians who have dirt on Hillary, which is the great irony. Now we got another one. Oh yeah, we got another one. You may have missed this, but this is going to be the next story, and it ties two specific lines of thinking in. One line of it is the one I was just talking about, that there is no Russian collusion. All of these contacts were forced by the federal government. The other thread I've been dealing with the entire time is that the Mueller probe was very specifically engineered for one reason, and Mueller was selected, and his conflicts, and the conflicts of his lawyers, who were mostly Clinton people, they were selected for a reason. It's to run interference and to keep the attention on the Trump collusion fairy tale, even though they know it doesn't exist, while keeping attention away from all the really nasty stuff that happened with the FBI on the Clinton side and on the weaponization of government side against the Trump team, okay? Mm-hmm. The Mueller team is a distraction. It's a probe. The probe is only there to keep the attention on the Trump team. And every single time news starts to break, you can expect Mueller to drop a new, quote, bombshell about something he's doing to keep the attention on Trump. We saw it with Cohen and other things. The story I'm about to tell you ties both of those together. So, the contacts matter. Everyone who contacts the Trump team has some connection to Fusion GPS or the FBI. I read an article the other day about Roger Stone, who was, a friend to Trump, knows Trump, and may have provided some political guidance. The exact extent of the relationship's unclear. I've met Roger Stone once or twice. We're not buddies. I actually just saw him not that long ago at an event I was at. But I know who Roger Stone is, and most of you do. And just to be clear, he is a political consultant. He's been around for a long time. And he had provided apparently some kind of political advice to the Trump team. So I see an article, Joe, in a left-leaning news outlet saying, Mueller's closing in on Stone. And what's, of course, the first thing that comes to mind? Okay, what are they covering up now? Because I know what Mueller's doing. Yeah. What are they covering up now, right? Anytime you read Mueller's closing in on someone, understand there's either some other story that's going to break they're trying to cover up, or they're looking into someone because that person's connected to the Clinton team, too, and they're trying to, the Pinchuk case comes to mind, and the other ones, where Mueller's closing in on Pinchuk. Pinchuk was a Clinton donor. What are you talking about? Mueller was investigating for a speaking fee to Trump. Did that make any sense? Only if you don't know what you're talking about. So when I saw Mueller closing in on Stone, I thought, what are they hiding now? Oh, boy. Oh, what are they hiding? I have an article in the show notes today. It's from about a month ago or so, but didn't get a lot of mainstream media coverage from the Miami Herald. Stone was contacted back in March of 2016. Another contact, Joe, by someone alleging to have dirt on Hillary. Amazing. Now, again, if you're in the media and you're a liberal, hack, and you're not interested in the facts and the data and doing any research on this case at all because you're a propagandist for the Democrat Party, then you'd say, in March of 2016, Stone was contacted by another person alleging to have dirt on Hillary? Russian collusion. If you're a sane person who's actually done the homework on this case, the first thing you start looking for is connections to who? The FBI or the Clinton team. So what do we got? Well, we got a doozy of a Miami Herald story about a guy named Henry Greenberg, who in March of 2016, March of 2016, according to the FBI, the investigation, that's right, Joe, into Trump didn't start until July. Oh, paragraph 1 rewritten again, isn't that? Wow, that's crazy. Remember I told you, the context, the paragraph 1, how they started this case, the FBI cannot seem to develop a coherent story here. So, in March of 2016, long before the FBI investigation starts into Donald Trump, allegedly, this guy, Henry Greenberg, approaches Roger Stone and Michael Caputo, another associate of the Trump orbit somehow, and asks for $2 million for information on Hillary Clinton. Just incredible how all these people keep approaching the Trump orbit. George Papadopoulos, Carter Page. Ladies and gentlemen, how stupid do you have to be to believe at this point this is all chance? I mean, this is seriously insane at this point. What's interesting about this interaction? Of course, I'm not just going to leave you there. You may say, okay, great. So a guy approached Stone and Caputo, alleging to have information on Hillary. What's your point? Caputo goes in for an interview about his contacts with the Russians. And he says, you know what was interesting? The FBI seemed more familiar with this guy Greenberg who approached them than I did. They seemed to have all the answers before I even answered the question. Even more interesting, Greenberg has in his file these parole type letters as are issued by federal law enforcement for cooperation with the FBI in the past, and there are very credible allegations that Greenberg may have been an FBI source in the past. Oh, really? Oh, isn't that crazy? So now we have a March 2016 meeting before Crossfire Hurricane starts with yet another person alleged to be some Russian agent with contacts and dirt on Hillary that approaches a Trump team member with an offer of dirt or info, whatever it may be. Yet another person who is seemingly connected to the FBI by a paper trail as a potential source in the past. And during the meeting, Caputo says the FBI had more information about the source than I did. But again, listen, media types out there, I understand you have no entrepreneurial interest in doing actual journalism. You may want to start asking questions because this is going to blow up entirely in your face. Now does it make sense, Joe? Mueller's closing in on Stone. Here we go again. Whenever you want to find out what the Mueller team is up to, just look for the connections to Hillary, Fusion GPS, and the FBI, and you'll figure it out right away. This Greenberg guy read the Miami Herald piece, please. It's in the show notes today. Has connections, a paper trail with the FBI. Again, another source. Well, now, to be clear, was he working for the FBI in this case? Open question at this point. I cannot confirm that on the show. In other words, was he working for the FBI specifically with regards to this contact with Caputo? We don't know that yet. Was it some kind of a shakedown? In other words, hey, give me $2 million, I'll give you information on Hillary. I'm not sure that's an effective shakedown. That's kind of a ridiculous price. I mean, listen, I worked in law enforcement. That's anyone who's seriously trying to get money for someone doesn't ask for $2 million right out of the chute for stuff like that. Especially given that a lot of the information on Hillary, sadly, was already out there on the internet.
Yeah.
But what we can confirm is that there is most definitely a paper trail between Greenberg and contacts with the FBI. Now, what's interesting, Joe, is the FBI is not commenting on their relationship with Greenberg. Folks, again, it is now starting to seep out into the media. Not the left-wing media, because they're still convinced that there actually is Trump-Russia collusion. There is. That will never happen. It does not exist, okay? But when you look at Fox and you look at other outlets, and Lee Smith's been doing God's work on this as well, you're starting to see the narrative about this being a setup, that Trump was framed, is finally starting to make it out there, and everything we've been talking about for the last 6 months is starting to come out. I told you, I was vectored in the right direction in this early, very early, and I came across a piece of information, hat tip to Lee Smith, by the way, for a lot of it, that pointed me in the right direction. Lee has been on this for a very long time. This was a setup, folks. Now, I said to you I'd read you a quote from the Miami Herald, showing you how genius the setup is. Because now, what's going to happen, this is going to be phase, 672 of the media's propaganda. I'm sick of them. I'm so tired. I am so I'm tired of being tired. Just tune them out, ladies and gentlemen. Do not click on CNN, the Washington Post, the New York Times. Don't turn on the channel. Change the channel in the airport, in the gym. These people are really horrible folks, okay? They have the right for the free press. They have the right to be horrible people. Unfortunately, they take us up on that invitation every single time. That the fact that they continue to propagate this nonsense about Russian collusion in an effort to start some kind of a cold civil war in this country is absolutely disgusting. Now, the Herald, who's either too dopey to figure it out or knows what they're doing, either one's bad. The Herald writes in the piece that this meeting between Stone and Caputo and what's his face, Henry Greenberg, who had contacts with the FBI in the past, Joe, quote, underscored a willingness of the campaign to meet with Russians, boasting of scandalous information. You understand how this works, Joe? So here's how it works. Because remember, the media is solely a propaganda arm right now for the liberals and the anti-Trump left and the anti-Trump swamp. That's all they are. These are not journalists. They're not to be taken seriously. They're not credible people. They don't know anything. What they do know is wrong. When they know it's wrong, they lie about it. These are not serious people. I cannot say this enough. Ignore them, and challenge them at every opportunity. The way it's working now is some in the media are starting to get a whiff that this may have been a setup. Some are still committed to the collusion fairy tale, but some are getting a whiff that this may be ugly, Joe. The new narrative is going to be, the new narrative is going to be this. Okay, it may have been a setup from the start. In other words, there was no Russian collusion, and all these people that contacted the Trump team were connected to Hillary or the FBI. In other words, not the Russians, Mifsud and others, right? But, Joe, it, quote, underscored a willingness of the campaign to meet with Russians, boasting of scandalous information. You get it? You see the trick?
Yeah.
We'll flip you. We'll flip you for real. This is the dipsy-do flipperooski. This is the multi-dipsy-do.
Yeah.
The dipsy-do flipperooski. This is the flip you. The flip you for real. This is it. Every time they get caught, the hacks in the media, the liars in the media, will go out and find a new way to spin their fairy tale. Their fairy tale now, because I'm telling you, just trust me on this. Some of them are still holding on to the collusion. I know I'm saying two seemingly contradictory things. I'm not. There are some, a good swath of them, that are still holding on to the fact that, yes, this was Russians trying to reach Joe. The new narrative is going to be, the new narrative is going to be this. Okay, it may have been a setup from the start. In other words, there was no Russian collusion, and all these people that contacted the Trump team were connected to Hillary or the FBI. In other words, not the Russians, Mifsud and others, right? But, Joe, it, quote, underscored a willingness of the campaign to meet with Russians, boasting of scandalous information. You get it? You see the trick?
Yeah.
We'll flip you. We'll flip you for real. This is the dipsy-do flipperooski. This is the multi-dipsy-do.
Yeah.
The dipsy-do flipperooski. This is the flip you. The flip you for real. This is it. Every time they get caught, the hacks in the media, the liars in the media, will go out and find a new way to spin their fairy tale. Their fairy tale now, because I'm telling you, just trust me on this. Some of them are still holding on to the collusion. I know I'm saying two seemingly contradictory things. I'm not. There are some, a good swath of them, that are still holding on to the fact that, yes, this was Russians trying to reach out to the Trump team. Some of the smarter ones, who are still devious but smart, are starting to realize that, man, this looks really bad. All these people we thought were Russians reaching out to the Trump team. These people are not Russian. They're connected to either Western intelligence, the FBI, or the Clintons. Ladies and gentlemen, Trump may have been framed. The new narrative is going to be, yeah, but it doesn't matter. The Trump team is still at fault anyway, because they shouldn't have accepted meetings with people they thought were working for the Russians. Listen to me. Listen to me. I have not steered you wrong. I have not steered you wrong on anything. I told you there were things going on behind the scenes. Now look what's happened. Strzok's been terminated, McCabe's been terminated, Comey's been terminated, Baker's resigned, Rybicki's resigned, Page has resigned, Yates has been fired. I told you things were going on behind the scenes. I've not been wrong. You may not be happy with the pace of it. That's fine. McCabe's been referred for criminal charges. I get it. I'm not suggesting to you Sessions has done everything right. I think the recusal was awful. But pretending nothing's going on and that Trump is entirely in the blind on this is nonsense. I've not been wrong. I have not been wrong to you about this setup. Everything I have told you has come out in the news. This was just reported last night. Lee Smith stories like this was breaking news. That the Trump Tower meeting may have been a setup. We have been telling you this forever. I'm telling you now the next phase is going to be this Greenberg Stone thing. They are trying to shut Stone up. Again, I don't know Stone. I can't vouch for Stone because I don't know him. I don't know what he was up to, what he was not up to. I do know this, though, that the guy who reached out to Caputo and him unquestionably has some ties to the FBI that they are currently not commenting on. And when it comes out finally in the wash that this was all a setup, I'm telling you again that the media's new narrative is going to be, well, it may have been a setup, but hey, you know, they shouldn't have accepted the meeting in the first place. Disgusting. Now, some of you email me and say, well, Dan, you know, what? I don't know what someone said to me the other day, I love the story, but I feel like it's frustrating because what's going to happen? Ladies and gentlemen, it's already happening. I just want you to take some solace in the fact that people are paying a price. You know, we don't do on the right mob justice like the left. They have managed right now, the Trump team, to clean out nearly the entire management level of the FBI. It is not happening fast, granted. Are there going to be criminal prosecutions? If the evidence presents itself, I hope so. If it doesn't, I hope not. But folks, things are happening. Think about it. Think about this. Under the Obama administration, Joe, we had the IRS scandal, the Benghazi scandal. Yeah. Did anybody get fired over any of that? No.
No.
Lois Lerner's still getting a pension from the U.S. government, from the IRS. Trump's been in office 2 years. He's nearly cleaned out the entire upper level of the DOJ and the FBI. You may say, well, Bruce Orr still has a job. Bruce Orr has been demoted. Bruce Orr will be out of a job shortly, too.
Oh,
I'm sure of it. It is happening. Not fast. But it's happening right. Smile a little bit. These people, the people who are involved in this, not that I take solace in their lives being ruined. I don't take a solace in that for anyone. But it's over for them. They engaged in a massive scandal to frame and set up the Trump team and spy on them. They've lost their jobs. They have zero credibility.
Right.
Their whole management team of the Bureau has been wiped out. They're all a laughingstock. Comey's a joke. Comey left the FBI thinking he was Captain Credibility. Mr. Integrity. He's a laughingstock. He's a joke on the right and the left. He's become a punchline to liberal and conservative jokes. McCabe just got referred for criminal charges. Strzok's become a meme on the internet. Got fired. He's humiliated every day with his texts. Sally Yates, a farce, a total joke, fired by the Trump Justice Department. Sally Yates, she may be a hero to the left, but her career history is going to judge her as nothing more than someone who abused her authority within the Justice Department to get an innocent man, Mike Flynn, prosecuted. History is going to judge these people harshly. The media is not getting over, folks. The media's credibility is down to what? 20% amongst, something like 9% amongst Republicans now? Independents don't believe the media anymore? They say, oh man, well, that's because everybody's saying fake news. No, that's because they're actually reporting fake news. You want to stop being called fake news? Stop being fake. Folks, we're winning here. The swamp is being cleaned out, slowly but effectively. The media's credibility is in the garbage. Mueller's team is in a panic. They have no collusion, so they have to make stuff up. They're desperately clinging to any hope that they can keep the attention off the malfeasance of the Justice Department and the FBI and on Trump, but they have nothing left. There's no predicate crime of collusion to fall back on. It's not all bad. I just don't want you to listen to the show and be disappointed. I get a lot of very depressed emails, and I read them. People are like, well, nothing's happening. It is happening. It's just not happening. I just want you to be prepared, though, for what's coming next. The media is getting ready for this shift. Once the framing of Donald Trump is established and the setup, and these FBI and Fusion GPS connections to the people that contacted the Trump team are well established, the transfer is going to be made to, okay, they may have framed Trump, but they did it because he was willing to accept. If he just was unwilling to accept these meetings in the first place, you know, if Woody would have went right to the police, none of this would have ever happened. The famous Woody Woodpecker episode. Disgusting. Oh, really, really disgusting. Okay, I got a couple other things to explain. A lot of confusion out there about this 1- and 2-party consent stuff. And I just want to clear up something quickly before I get this read. Yesterday on the tax story, you're right, the CNS piece I sent over. The income tax revenue, yes, from last year was down. I was referring to the income tax revenue, which is up. Give the corporate tax revenue a moment to set it. It was a drastic tax cut. But the income tax revenue, remember, that's why I cited Calvin Coolidge, John F. Kennedy,
Yeah.
I cited Reagan, George H.W. Bush. The income tax cuts did not lead to a cut in revenue as anticipated. That's why I was careful to make the distinction between correlation and causation. Income tax cuts did not lead to, it led to more income tax revenue. There has been a dip, though, in corporate taxes, but there was a massive cut. But listen to me. Listen, and please, perk your ears up. Just give it some time, and I promise you, give it a year or two, that's going to go up dramatically too. But we are at the federal tax revenue this year is the income tax revenue is at record highs. So I just want to make sure, because I don't like to. I'm sorry when I confuse people. Sometimes I get too deep in the weeds with stuff. And I do the show and I'm like,